pleased to be joined by my colleagues, Senators Durbin, Merkley, Schatz, and Blunt Rochester. And good afternoon. So this afternoon, Republicans, so divided, so dysfunctional, so disorganized, are fleeing Washington. Their majority can't melt down fast enough, not when Americans' financial situation is melting down every day. Republicans are in complete disarray. They're at each other's throats, and the American people are suffering for it. Republicans are divided over things that Americans don't want, but Democrats are united around things that the people do want: for us to lower their costs, rein in the chaos, fight the corruption that is endemic to this administration. Republicans have tied themselves up in knots and torn each other to shreds over Trump's brazenly corrupt slush fund for his billionaire cronies and January 6th insurrectionists. They have soiled their reputation by fighting to fund Trump's billion-dollar ballroom at taxpayer expense. And all the while, Republicans haven't lifted a finger to lower Americans' costs. Trapped in a corner by their own president, Republicans have their backs to the wall with no way out, nowhere to hide, no end in sight. The only way for Republicans to get out of this box is to stop backing the slush fund, stop pushing the ballroom, and as soon as we get back, join Democrats in fighting to lower Americans' costs on health care, on housing, on power, on child care, and on so much else, and to join us in fighting the corruption that Trump just revels in. Republicans are in retreat, but Democrats are moving full steam ahead to fight Trump's costs, chaos, corruption. Senator Durbin.
Thanks, Chuck. Is it possible on May 21st, 2026, the Republicans finally found an ethical bridge too far? I wonder, could it have been that golden ballroom for $1 billion that was supposed to be freebie that Mar-a-Lago golf buddies were going to pitch in for? Or perhaps it was this incredible slush fund. I don't know quite what to call it. It was a Capitol Police Cop Beaters Relief Fund, so that those who were convicted of assaulting the Capitol and their violent attacks will get a special premium payment by this slush fund. Maybe that was the bridge too far. I'm not sure we'll ever find out. This much we know. When the Republicans return home this weekend, as we do, they're going to find that the American people are sick and tired of this baloney. They want to get down to basics. Gasoline at $5.49 a gallon in Chicago, that's what it was when I left. Grocery prices up, utility prices up, rent prices up, and nothing from the Republicans and nothing from Trump to help these families. That's the real message of today.
Thank you. Senator Merkley.
This battle over the reconciliation bill is all about costs, chaos, and corruption. Costs, $70 billion, and not a penny going to health care, housing, education, helping people with the price of gas at the pump, nothing that American families are suffering from. $70 billion. And let's talk about chaos. Not a single common sense reform for ICE or CBP, who have been acting like secret police terrorizing communities across this country. And then corruption. Well, certainly the $1 billion for a ballroom boondoggle worthy of Louis XIV, but totally inappropriate in a democratic republic, that's certainly corruption. But this settlement, in which Trump sues his own administration and his former defense lawyer serving as acting attorney general, proceeds to say, I know what, I'll give you $1.8 billion to hand out to whomever you want. I mean, that is really a world record in self-dealing. Think about any other country in the world where you've read about corruption. Have you read about a president giving himself $1.8 billion to hand out to his friends? I mean, all of this, finally, appears to be too much for our colleagues across the aisle. We are hoping that they will join us in tackling the issues that families face across this country, join us in tackling the misbehavior of ICE and CBP, and join us in taking on this profound level of corruption that has known no equal in our entire 2 centuries plus of history, and probably no equal anywhere in the world.
Senator Schatz.
Jeff's got a plane. People are really struggling out there. They can't afford their health care. They can't afford their utility bills. They can't afford to fill their gas tank. They can't afford their mortgage. They can't afford their rent. And you would think that if the political party in charge has basically 2 golden tickets to pass major legislation through this process, that they would prioritize making life more affordable for their constituents. But instead, they want to quadruple the size of ICE, they want to build a ballroom, and they want to provide compensation for the people that stormed this Capitol and beat up cops. And so don't let anybody tell you there's not enough money in the United States of America. What they are telling you is that there is enough money for a ballroom. There is enough money to pay off their friends and violent insurrectionists. There is enough money to quadruple the size of ICE. There's enough money to start multiple regime change wars. What they are telling you is that there's not enough money for you.
Senator Blunt, Rochester.
Thank you, Chuck. You know, today in this very present moment, this is actually a victory for the American people. When we go home to our states, we are hearing from people up and down in Delaware, up and down the state. I had a family reach out to us and say that we are no longer able to pay our bills. We're using a line of credit on our mortgage to pay our bills. We're not eating. This woman was 60 years old who wrote to us, and she said, she ended it by saying, "I'm a Republican." Everybody is hurting across this country, and what this administration is doing is showing us what their priorities are. Their priorities are a gold-plated ballroom. Their priorities are a new reflecting pool, which we hope is not painted with the face of Donald Trump at the bottom. They're showing us that their priorities are building detention centers. In the 250th anniversary of this country, this is not the direction that we should be going. People are hurting, and this administration is acting as if the American people are their ATM. And so we stand here today to say, we're glad that this happened today, that it was stopped, it was stalled, but we know this is not the end. This is the same group that last year brought you one big, beautiful bill that gave money to ICE and CBP, but cut your health care. And so we're going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to stand up for the American people. And as my colleague said, we hope that this is a new day for Republicans in Congress, that we take our power back, because our power stems from the people. So I just want to thank Chuck for giving us this opportunity, but just tell the American people to stay tuned. We know this is not the end of the battle.
Questions? Yes.
You mentioned you hope Republicans stop backing the slush fund. Is it anybody's understanding that any of your colleagues, any Republicans, are actually backing that thing?
The whole fight that they've had today is about bowing down to Donald Trump and doing what the American people don't want them to do, whether it's the ballroom or the slush fund, or siding with the American people. And the bottom line is that too many of them are siding with Trump. They're either afraid of Trump, look what happened this week, or they are blind, so blind that they don't see that it's costs, costs, costs that's making the American people angry and frustrated. And frankly, we're angry and frustrated that Republicans don't join us. We want to help people feed themselves. We want to help people be able to go to work and pay for that tank of gas. We want to help first-time home buyers afford a mortgage. And they're busy fighting amongst themselves on something the American people don't care about.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. When you all return, the FISA deadline will be, I think, June 12th. Are you concerned that because they didn't handle this before Memorial Day, that this will impact a must-pass piece of legislation?
Look, the FISA needs reform. I think almost all of our caucus feels it needs reform, and we're willing to work with the Republicans to get that reform. I don't think they know where they're at. Yes.
Senator Schumer, sort of up until now, the main Democratic electoral message has been affordability, the cost of living, prices. Are you guys now going to talk a lot more about corruption going into the fall?
Look.
Because you've got now this fund.
Here's the link. Corruption often leads to the high prices. Donald Trump sided with the big oil and gas industries and cut off the cheapest way to get power on the grid. Donald Trump, listening to a few big industry people, put in the tariffs that raised the costs. The two are tied together. Our goal is to get the costs lower, but the corruption in this administration pushes them to do the opposite. Yes.
Thank you. Can you talk for a moment about what some of these amendments would have looked like? When I talked to Republican senators, they all said in this vote-a-rama, had it happened, they said you guys would have had certain votes that would have put them in tough spots based on the compensation fund. Can you characterize, describe what?
No, I'm not going to get into the specific amendments, but we made clear that we felt that this corruption was so vile that we were going to do everything we can in reconciliation to try to get it undone. And that is the case. It will, if they come back and keep these things in their bill, we'll keep that fight, but we'll also be reminding people over and over again on the costs of living, the affordability issue, which is number one and always has been number one for us. And the reason we hate this stuff so badly is not just its innate corruption, which turns your stomach, but because it stands in the way of us doing what the American people want, what we were sent here to do. Get down those prices. Yes.
Drawdown of United States troops in Europe, how that might influence European security, specifically the Baltic states, while Russia is continuing.
Look, the bottom line is that this war in Iran he still hasn't said what the goal is. He still hasn't said how much it's going to cost. He still hasn't said how long it's going to last and how he's going to pay for it. And so, yes, this war undermines all the other things that we think need to be done. Yes.
Mr. Leader, just to clarify, beyond possible amendments, is there anything that's in a Democrat's plan to do legislatively to block this anti-weaponization fund? And separately, do you agree with the findings of this new DNC autopsy report?
Well, look, we'll do everything we can to stop this slush fund, whether it's in the courts, whether it's legislative, whether it's through reconciliation or any other legislative means. As for the second, I haven't seen the report yet. I've been kind of busy today. Last one.
What is your opinion on the lifting sanction on Russian oil? And there are a lot
I think Trump has been far too cozy with Putin and not strong enough for Ukraine. One of the things we'd like to do is impose those sanctions on Russia, which still the Republicans aren't ready to go forward with. Thank you, everybody.